The galactic forum's chambers hummed with energy as representatives from dozens of species gathered. Towering figures, sleek forms, and shimmering exoskeletons filled the hall, each alien flaunting their culture's superiority. It was a rare sight, these many races coming together without the shadow of war looming overhead. But today wasn't about diplomacy or trade. Today was a cultural exchange, where species showcased their finest achievements, intellectual, artistic, and physical. At one end of the grand hall, humans stood clustered together, a quiet, unimposing group. They were among the newer members of the Galactic Coalition, and their contributions to the Alliance had been modest at best. Clever technology, adaptable diplomacy, but physically, a laughingstock. The tales of their fragile bodies had spread quickly among the more formidable species. Whispers of their inability to match up in direct combat had further cemented their reputation as weaklings. But the humans were patient, observant. Zalara, the Grelth endurance champion, a hulking figure whose leathery skin and towering build radiated strength, scoffed at the sight of the human delegation. "Tell me, humans," Zalara bellowed, her voice booming across the hall. "What does your species offer in the realm of physical prowess? Surely, you can't expect us to marvel at your frail forms." A ripple of laughter echoed from the nearby Torak and Ceralian representatives. Ambassador Morgan, a composed woman with sharp eyes and a demeanor as calm as it was unreadable, stepped forward. "We have our own forms of physical competition," she said smoothly, ignoring the sneers directed at her. "Sports that test our strength, endurance, and mental agility." The term caught on like wildfire. "Sports?" chuckled Grak, a Torak warrior with shoulders broad enough to block out the light. His species, known for their raw power, excelled in brutal, gladiatorial games. "Tell us, what do you humans do? Dance in circles? Throw stones? Something like that," Morgan replied, the corner of her mouth twitching into the slightest smile. "We play games that challenge both body and mind. American football, basketball, soccer, sports where skill, strategy, and coordination are key." The aliens' amusement only grew. The idea that humans, a species of fragile bones and soft tissue, played games that could compare to their own rigorous trials seemed absurd. "Perhaps you would like to try?" Morgan's voice cut through the laughter, firm but inviting. The other species exchanged glances, intrigued by what they saw as a human's bold but naive challenge. Zalara stepped forward, her massive form towering over the human ambassador. "Your little games sound like child's play compared to our feats of endurance," she growled, her forearms flexing menacingly. "But we accept. We'll humor you." Morgan's gaze didn't waver, even as the rest of her team stood silently behind her. She nodded. "We'll organize the matches. But remember, our games require more than brute strength. They demand strategy, finesse, and adaptability." There was a subtle but unmistakable edge to her tone, a warning hidden behind polite words. "Brute strength is more than enough for your games," Grak scoffed, pounding his fist into his palm, the sound resonating like a drumbeat. The Torak warrior had already mentally won the challenge, his confidence bolstered by the idea of humans as fragile and easily broken. He wasn't the only one. The Ceralians, tall and agile, whispered among themselves, already devising tactics to dominate this peculiar form of human competition. They excelled in their own mind games, believing their superior intellect would easily transfer to these sports. Morgan, still calm, extended a datapad. "Here are the rules. Study them carefully. The games may seem simple, but they are anything but." As the alien representatives looked over the details of football, basketball, and soccer, their expressions shifted from amusement to mild confusion. What were touchdowns? Why was footwork so important in basketball? And why couldn't you just throw the ball in soccer? Despite their confusion, the aliens dismissed the complexities. Rules wouldn't stop them from dominating these humans. Zalara, with a final glance at Morgan, growled, "We'll see how your sports measure up to true strength. Tomorrow we'll play." Morgan nodded, stepping back as the aliens walked away, still laughing and muttering among themselves. As soon as they were out of earshot, she turned to her team, her calm facade cracking just slightly to reveal a smile of quiet confidence. They have no idea what's coming. One of her aides, a former football coach named Lieutenant Avery, grinned back. They think it's all about muscle. Wait until they realize it's about precision control, and that just one wrong move could break them. Morgan nodded thoughtfully. Let them laugh. Tomorrow, they'll learn that human sports aren't just games. They're survival training. The faintest hint of tension filled the air, the quiet promise of what was to come looming large over the forum. The humans turned and left the hall, leaving the aliens to their overconfidence, their jokes, and their inevitable downfall. The next day, the atmosphere in the Galactic Forum Stadium was electric. Aliens from dozens of species gathered in the stands, eager to witness the spectacle of humans playing their so-called sports. Among them, Zalara of the Grelf stood with her arms crossed, her expression one of absolute certainty. Grak of the Torak flexed his massive hands, rolling his shoulders in preparation. They had no doubt this would be a show of their dominance, a mere warm-up before they embarrassed the humans with their superior physicality. The first game was American football. As the human referees set the field, Grak's team of Torak warriors took their positions, towering over their human counterparts. The humans, clad in padded gear and helmets, seemed laughably fragile compared to the hulking forms of the Torak. Grak slammed his fist into his palm, a thunderous crack echoing across the field. This is it? A child's game of throwing and catching, he scoffed, eyeing the ball with disdain. The whistle blew, signaling the start of the match. The Torak rushed forward, eager to crush the humans with sheer brute force. But they soon discovered that power alone wasn't enough. On the first play, Grak charged toward the human quarterback, his enormous frame barreling down like a freight train. But just as he prepared to slam his body into the human, the quarterback twisted at the last moment, slipping past him with a grace Grak hadn't anticipated. The human threw the ball downfield, a precise, calculated spiral that sailed directly into the hands of his receiver. The Torak stumbled in confusion. Grak snarled, furious at his failure to simply bulldoze his way to victory. The next few plays were even worse. His team, accustomed to relying on brute strength, kept misjudging the human players. The delicate balance of speed, agility, and strategy bewildered them. A massive Torak lineman, overconfident in his strength, took a hit wrong and collapsed, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. The humans moved like clockwork, coordinating their attacks and exploiting the Torak's weaknesses. Before long, the first Torak casualty was carried off the field, his body limp and unconscious. Zalara, watching from the sidelines, frowned but remained confident. She and her Grelf team were next, and their endurance would carry the day. Football was merely a brute's game. Basketball, she believed, would be a true test of skill. As Grak's injured team was escorted off the field, Zalara stepped forward, her towering presence enough to make the crowd stir. This was her moment. The humans prepared the basketball court, explaining the rules once again. Zalara's team, known for their stamina and precision, took their positions. They watched the human players with narrowed eyes, certain this was where they'd shine. But from the very first tip-off, the Grelf struggled. The fast-paced nature of the game, the constant need for quick footwork, and the sharp changes in direction overwhelmed them. Zalara found herself panting just a few minutes in, chasing after human players who darted around the court with practiced ease. The Grelf were used to enduring long battles of attrition, but basketball required something they weren't prepared for: agility, explosive energy, and quick reflexes. On a particularly ill-timed jump, one of Zalara's teammates leaped for the ball, attempting to swat it away, only to land awkwardly. His ankle twisted beneath him with a sickening crunch, and he collapsed to the floor, writhing in agony. Zalara, distracted by her teammate's fall, didn't notice the human player sprint past her and dunked the ball effortlessly into the net. Zalara's frustration grew with every missed opportunity. Her team, once so confident in their endurance, couldn't keep up with the pace of the game. By the end, she was barely standing, her breath labored, her pride wounded. The final game was soccer. The Cerealians, renowned for their intellect and strategic prowess, entered the field with cool confidence. They viewed soccer as a simple tactical exercise, a game that could be easily dominated by their superior minds. But as the match progressed, their overconfidence quickly unraveled. The speed of the game, the intricate footwork, and the constant need for physical endurance caught them off guard. One Cerealian defender, too slow to react to a human swift advance, was knocked down in a blur of movement. His head struck the ground with a sickening thud. Silence fell over the crowd as his limp form was dragged from the field, blood pooling beneath him. The Cerealians, like the Torak and Grelp before them, had underestimated the humans. This wasn't just a game. It was survival. Each alien species had been so sure of their superiority, so convinced that human sports were simple amusements, that they hadn't prepared for the physical and mental demands of these games. By the end of the day, the once proud champions were humbled, their bodies bruised and broken. The humans, standing tall and composed, said little, but their silence spoke volumes. The aliens had learned a painful lesson. Underestimating humanity, even in something as trivial as a game, could have deadly consequences. The stadium fell into an uneasy quiet as the final match ended. The once confident champions from the Grelf, Torak, and Cerealian teams sat bruised and beaten, their arrogance shattered alongside their bones. Their earlier laughter had been replaced with grim silence, the weight of their defeat settling over them like a suffocating fog. In the stands, the other alien delegates shifted uncomfortably, their initial amusement at the spectacle of human sports now transformed into unease. Ambassador Morgan stood at the edge of the field, her gaze sweeping over the carnage of what was supposed to be a friendly competition. The humans had warned the aliens about the complexities of their games, but the Galactic Forum had dismissed them as trivial amusements. Now, with their champions humiliated and injured, they began to understand that human sports were more than just games. They were carefully designed trials of survival. Zalara of the Grelf, despite the pain etched across her features, managed to pull herself to her feet. She limped toward Morgan, her massive frame hunched from exhaustion, but still towering over the human ambassador. This wasn't sport, Zalara growled, her voice hoarse from exertion. It was a trap. Morgan met her gaze, unflinching. No trap. You underestimated us. We tried to explain the rules, but you saw only our weakness. You thought brute strength would be enough. Grak of the Torak, leaning heavily on one of his uninjured comrades, snarled from the sidelines. You knew we weren't prepared. You set us up to fail. Morgan's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of something darker in her eyes, something that sent a shiver through the nearby delegates. You asked us to show you our strength, she said quietly. We chose to show you our discipline, our control. But make no mistake, what you saw today was only a fraction of what we're capable of. There was a murmur of disbelief among the alien spectators. They had been outmatched in what they considered a mere game. If humans could turn something so seemingly simple into an arena of pain and defeat, what else were they capable of? A Cerealian diplomat stepped forward, his elongated form swaying as he tried to steady himself. These games of yours, he said cautiously, they seem to be more than just physical contests. They teach something else, don't they? Something far more dangerous. Morgan nodded, her gaze steady. They teach strategy, adaptability, endurance, and resilience. The ability to analyze an opponent, exploit weaknesses, and push the limits of the body and mind. She gestured toward the injured players. Your champions underestimated the complexity because you equated strength with victory. But in human sports, victory comes from mastering the mental and physical, working as a team, and anticipating what your enemy will do next. The crowd shifted again, the full implications sinking in. The human sports were more than just games. They were training grounds. Every touchdown, every goal, every pass was a calculated move, a drill for something larger. The aliens had come to the games expecting a simple display of physical prowess. Instead, They had unwittingly participated in a human demonstration of military discipline, wrapped in the guise of sport. Zalara clenched her fists, her pride warring with the growing realization of what had transpired. "You've made your point, human," she muttered, bitterness tinging her words. "But if this was just a game, what would happen in actual combat?" Morgan's smile was faint but chilling. "We prefer peace," she replied softly. "But if war comes, understand this. We've trained for it in ways you can't imagine. The rules of engagement will be much different, but the discipline remains. What you experienced today was sport. In war, there are no referees." The warning hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. The Galactic Forum's members were beginning to realize what they had missed all along. Humans had taken something as simple as sport and transformed it into an exercise in survival, a way to hone their instincts and skills for any scenario. The fact that they had done so without even drawing a weapon made them all the more terrifying. The injured champions were led away, leaving the field empty but for the human delegation. As the crowds dispersed, the aliens whispered among themselves, their perceptions of humanity forever altered. No longer were the humans the fragile newcomers to be dismissed or mocked. They were something else entirely, something far more dangerous. Morgan turned to her aide, Lieutenant Avery, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. "They understand now," she said quietly. Avery nodded, his expression grim but satisfied. "They'll think twice before underestimating us again." As the humans began to leave the field, Morgan glanced back at the empty stadium. The Galactic Forum had been given a glimpse of humanity's potential, a potential that stretched far beyond the boundaries of sport. If these alien species couldn't handle human games, then war, should it ever come, would be a battlefield unlike anything they had ever imagined, and the humans would be ready. The end of the day left one truth crystal clear. Humans weren't just players in the galactic stage anymore. They were contenders, and everyone now understood what that truly meant.